We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater. What is going on, everybody? Taylor here, and today Jacob and I are going to be doing our review for Birds of Prey, the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited to talk about this movie. I know that you're a little bit lesser so excited than I am to talk about this movie, but I do think it's important that we have this conversation.
Yeah, going in, I just want to say at the start, I really enjoyed this film. I think this is a very, very entertaining, very solid, enjoyable film.
Okay, so do you think it's a step in a good direction for DC?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think it is the step that DC need to take. I think it is a very important step, and I think it is a step that, okay, you are basically the biggest problem for me that DC had was they put all their eggs in the Zack Snyder basket.
Yeah.
Whereas in now they're going, okay, we're going to allow filmmakers to make the film they want.
Right. Because
and
we
have to be tied to Zack Snyder's vision.
Right. Well, to me, I mean, it sucks because this is exactly the kind of movie I wanted out of Suicide Squad, and then obviously, due to a lot of things, that's not what we got.
No.
So to me, I was nervous going into this movie, like a lot of people have been. But I was also really excited because I know that Margot Robbie had her hands all over this movie. I know that the screenwriter and the director were both women, which we needed for this movie because you just can't do this movie justice, in my opinion, without at least having a woman director or a woman screenwriter, because these characters in this movie feel so fleshed out to me, even if you don't get to spend as much time with them as maybe you would have liked. They feel like they're starting from a genuine place where you can learn more about them as they come back.
Yeah.
I feel like we started at a good place, and I also think that as much as Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn were, in my opinion, the best part of Suicide Squad, and a lot of people's opinion for that movie, this movie, she feels more like a real person.
Yeah.
She, you know, she's not just kind of the crazy, ditzy Harley Quinn. She is that, but she's also allowed to be extremely emotional, and she's allowed to be the psychologist. Like, it's actually ingrained in her character in this movie. Instead of just getting the flashback of her and Joker at the asylum, she will psychoanalyze people as she's talking to them, and just little things like that. I really loved what they did with her in this movie.
I completely agree there. There's little things that they do with Harley that I really love. There's decisions that they make. There's moments in the film that are just absolutely incredibly well done. And you mentioned it earlier where you said, you know, that you don't get to spend so much time with the rest of the crew. And that's my biggest problem with the film, is that I really liked the rest of the crew and I kind of wanted some more time with them as well. I get it. Like, I understand why that, you know, okay, this is a Harley Quinn, that they're making this a Harley Quinn film. Fair enough, and I get it. I just, they introduced these incredible characters and just, we didn't get to spend nearly as much time as I wanted with them, but hopefully we get sequels, hopefully we get...
Well, and I get where you're coming from. I just always came into this under the impression that it was going to be Harley's movie because after Suicide Squad, everyone wanted to see more Harley, and there were rumors of a Harley Joker movie, there were rumors of a Gotham City Sirens movie, there were rumors of this movie, but the central purpose of all of them was to bring Harley back.
Yeah, definitely.
And we kind of knew that they wanted her to lead some part of this DC cinematic, whatever you want to call it at this point, the world of DC.
Yeah.
But I do think that if they would have given everyone more birds of prey in this movie, like everyone is kind of screaming for, I think maybe we would have regretted it just a little bit, because
Maybe.
then you're trying to cram so much into one movie, and I don't know if you would have gotten what you would have wanted. Maybe you would
that's
have.
possible. That
Maybe
is-
you would have. Maybe you
Yeah,
wouldn't.
that's very possible.
We can't say for sure, obviously, because that's not the movie we got.
Yeah.
But I do think they laid some really fantastic groundwork for them in this movie. Dude, freaking Huntress.
Yeah,
She
and
is
that's
so
what I mean,
cool.
like,
And Black
yeah.
Canary is so cool. And they're all so cool. And I'm glad that we got this kind of... I guess it makes sense to me because they're all kind of in this criminal world, and they're all kind of reluctantly running into each other all the
Yeah.
time. And then they kind of at the end just are like, well, I guess we freaking
Well,
have to do this. Like, I guess this is
the way that the birds of prey join up feels very natural.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels very, in this moment, we all have to work together. And I liked that. I did really like that.
And I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil the ending, but the way that it ends
Yeah.
is hilarious,
Yeah, and
because
it's-
it's exactly what you would expect
Yeah.
out of this kind of movie. But I do just want to say, Ewan McGregor
Ewan McGregor kills this movie.
Is-
Like, he is so
he
good in this
is
film.
so good. He is having so much fun.
Yo.
I know there are some people who are not particularly fond of this version of Roman, but
Yeah, I get it. Like I understand, because Roman is, there is the way that we have seen them do Roman, where he is genuinely terrifying in that I'm the Godfather. Like,
Yeah.
there's the way that we have seen them do Roman. I liked this version because he is just as scary.
but he's so eccentric, and you just have
Yeah.
no idea what's going to come out of his mouth.
And that's another version and we've seen that be done in some other versions. So it's still true to the character. It still felt like Roman. It still felt like Black Mask, and I am completely on board with that.
I think
Yeah.
that, to me, it felt very true to a comic book. And what I mean by that is it's so extra, but in a way that feels like you'd find that in Gotham. Like, it feels like he fits in that world so well.
The biggest thing that I think how DC going forward need to establish themselves different from Marvel
Yeah.
is this type of
I agree.
Is that,
I
and
completely agree.
It's not the R rating. It's the filmmaker driven.
Yeah.
I love Marvel, don't get me wrong, but they are very... There is the corporatization.
There's the plan.
Yeah,
we have 5 movies, 6 movies,
Yep.
7 movies from now are already planned.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
Which works for them clearly, very
clearly
well.
It does. Warner Brothers kind of needs to go on this track of, hey, we're all in the same universe, but we're telling different stories.
Yes.
And I like that idea.
Yeah.
That, okay, Harley Quinn can exist in this world in this type of film.
Yeah.
But so can Batman in Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Like,
And I love the way that they talked about this universe in this movie, because she brings up the fact that she's been arrested by Batman, and you see the picture of Boomerang
Yeah.
when she's in the police station,
Yeah.
and just little things that aren't shoving it in your
No.
face.
And that's, to me, what I like about where Warner Brothers is going with this. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I get you messed up. Like, you messed up with Justice League. You tried to be Marvel. You've learned, and clearly from Wonder Woman, from Aquaman, from now this film, from Shazam, they've learned,
Yeah.
okay, this is the direction we need to go. I hope they stay on this course, and I hope that they do continue in this direction. It doesn't have to be R-rated.
No,
Just let it be
it-
the movie that the filmmaker wants it to be.
But I think the fact that they allowed this movie to be an R rating says that,
Yeah.
because they could have made this movie PG-13,
Yeah.
but I think that the R rating is what it needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't a spoiler, I think, with like him cutting off people's faces.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have flied in a PG-13 film. Like, you could, there's no way to cut around that to
Right.
be PG-13. You can't do Zaz in
No.
a PG-13 film.
Not doing it justice.
No, so
Zaz has to be.
I thought the way they did it was really well, and I liked the fact that they allowed, again, I'm a broken record. They let the filmmaker make the film they wanted to make.
And I think that shines through in a lot of ways. I want to talk about a lot of the things that I thought were fantastic about this movie, just because in my opinion, there are so many. This movie, and I've kind of hinted at this at the start of it feels like a comic book movie is bleeding from this movie. And what I mean by that is there are just moments where it's so outrageous, but not for the sake of being outrageous. Like there's a scene with Harley that people are gifting the hell out of in the middle of a fight scene, where you just go, yeah, all right,
that's her.
That's her. That's her. And the choreography in this movie for these fight scenes is insane. Everyone I've seen really talking about it is comparing it to John Wick, and it very much feels like it doesn't pull its punches.
Oh, definitely not. No.
I'll tell you.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you that much. Like it's violent, but not for the sake of it. Like it makes sense what they're doing with it. It's women kicking ass in ways that we don't really get to see a lot of. A lot of women's fight choreography is kind of pulled back most of the time. Very much not the case in this movie.
Yeah, I liked so one thing I really liked was that Harley Quinn, she shows that she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
I was expecting that, them to pull back and go, oh no, she can't be a fighter. Like, no, Harley's a fighter. Like she can fight. And the scene in the cop station is just hands down one of the most crazy over the top scenes I have seen in a while, and it's amazing. It's
so good, and it feels like a comic book panel.
Yes.
And I love that, because a lot of people are saying, there are some people who are saying it doesn't feel like it's faithful to any sort of comic book, but I don't necessarily agree with that. It takes elements from a lot of stories we've seen, and I don't necessarily think that we should just be translating directly from comics to the screen.
No, I agree with that. One thing that I do believe, I understand why some people... I think this film will do wonders on a rewatch. I think this is a film that will highly benefit from rewatching it again.
Okay.
Because the opening 15 minutes is jarring. It can be very jarring if you're not expecting that going in.
Yeah.
And
I get that.
It can take a little bit to get used to, especially the style of the way they're telling the story. So I think that if you go see it a second time, knowing what's coming, you probably enjoy it a little bit more.
That might be the case. I've seen people who have already gone to see it a second time, and it's only improved for them. So I can definitely see that happening. Another thing I wanted to talk about is I really liked the story that they gave us in this movie, because it was simple enough that it kind of just lets itself be and lets itself go, because this isn't really a spoiler. The story is she's no longer with the Joker, and so she doesn't have that protection anymore, because everyone in Gotham knows you don't mess with the Joker, and if you mess with Harley, you're messing with the Joker. And nobody wants to do that. And once word gets out that, oh no, they're actually really broken up, the whole movie becomes John Wick, where everyone's trying to...
It does. It's her against everyone, and
there's a bounty, and she has to freaking not die.
Yeah, and I really liked that. I thought, okay, you've done that well. That's well done and enjoyable, and it's funny.
It is. The humor is so good. I love the humor. I think that the costuming in this movie is going to inspire a whole just fashion wave, because first of all, Roman's suits are just they're everything. Oh yeah. They are everything. But then just the clothes that Harley wears in this movie, if you compare it to what we got her wearing in Suicide Squad, where she wears the daddy's little monster, daddy's little girl, whatever it is, she wears that shirt and her little booty shorts, which is fine. Yeah. It's a classic Harley outfit, nothing wrong with it. But in this movie, she's got a freaking glitter coat. She's got clothes that I want to wear. I want all of those clothes.
It's over the top crazy in the best of ways.
It's fashion. It's clothes that girls are going to want to wear. You can cosplay her from Suicide Squad, but you can take pieces she wore in this movie and just wear them.
Yeah.
Like that's, and I know that sounds silly, but that's stuff that a lot of women want to see. Like that's what you want.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
and it's
I
just,
get that.
it's things like, and not just Harley, like all of the women in this movie. And it's been a big thing online of not all men, but a lot of men are saying there's no sex appeal in this movie. And sirs, I would beg.
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
I would highly, highly beg to differ.
I don't know what you're talking about because
There is something for everyone in this movie, I guarantee you.
yeah.
But like, just things like that, and I want to kind of bring something up that's probably gonna blow up in my face, which is fine because that's just the kind of channel we're running here apparently. But it's so interesting and oftentimes frustrating, but very interesting to live in a society where you're getting more and more and more female directors, female writers, female producers with big female casts. And suddenly a market that has for so long been so male dominated in producers, in directors, in writers, in casts, that's just the kind of audience that has been catered to for so long because men are writing and directing and thinking about things mostly from a man's perspective and what men are going to watch in movies. And now that you have movies like this and the Charlie's Angels reboot and Wonder Woman and movies like that coming out, and male audiences are being forced to accept that it's not being directed for them or written with their perspective in mind, a lot of men are having issues with that because because they're not used to not being catered to. Whether that's something they recognize or not, it's just how it's been for a very, very long time. And for women, you're just used to watching movies that are not made for you and having to appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah, and that's something I think everyone should just appreciate now, that hey, we're getting stories from different perspectives.
Which I think so too, and you and I have that opinion, but there are still a lot of people out there who are having a rough time with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I do think that everyone should go see this movie for themselves because it is colorful, it is crazy, it is violent, it is hilarious, it's stunning aesthetically. The fight scene at the very end, the location of it the way that it's shot is so cool. Like, just choosing that place to me is so Harley and it's so Gotham and it's so just wild.
Yeah,
like
it definitely is. It's a really fun, really enjoyable, entertaining movie, and I would thoroughly recommend it to anyone.
I absolutely would. There's one other thing I want to bring up, and I'm not gonna really go into it, but I do want to say there is a scene in the movie that could make some people pretty uncomfortable. But it's kind of just a thing that women deal with, but ramped up to an extreme. And I think that as uncomfortable as it might be for some people to watch, that's just, it's what comic books and superhero movies, in my opinion, are. It's reality ramped up. And that's what these worlds are. They're grounded in reality, but they're turned up to 12.
Yeah. And also, like, the guy's a villain.
Well, but even not as a scary DC villain. Like, it's grounded in things that really happen.
No, definitely.
And I've seen some people kind of go, it's not believable. And I just go, well, let me know what world you're living in because I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
But just kind of keep in mind that it leans pretty damn hard into its R rating.
Yeah, it's not for kids.
And I think that it should. Like I said, I think it's written so well, and it's kind of, it doesn't waste a frame of this movie, in my opinion. Everything that is said, everything that is done means something and is there for a reason and contributes to character development and contributes to the story. And they're not just throwing F-bombs around just for the sake of it. And it's all very purposeful, but it is a little rough at times. So just keeping that in mind, knowing what you guys are able to handle, like just
they have Victor Zsasz as a villain. Like, just if you don't know who that is, look him up before you see this movie.
But I would highly recommend this movie. I loved it. In my current like DC World of DC rankings, I believe I have it at number 3 behind Shazam and Wonder Woman. It might be number 2 actually, but it's up in my top echelon of current World of DC movies, which I loved it. I'm hoping that people actually go out and see it because I think that it definitely deserves an audience.
Yep.
It'll definitely have its audience. People kind of just dismissing it, I think, are really, really missing out. And I think that it's a great direction for them to be going in. I hope that we get more of the Birds of Prey. I hope there's another movie out there for them. And I think that it's such an important movie. Like the writing and the directing in this movie by the women who were involved, you can just tell that they put everything they had into it. You can tell they love these characters and they love this story, and there are just things from a female perspective that you get in this movie that inherently would be difficult for a man to put in a movie and feel genuine just because that's just kind of how it is sometimes. And I'm really, really stoked that we actually got a movie like this because I'm just like sitting here rejoicing, man. Like I'm so excited about this movie. I cannot wait to see it again because I just had so much fun and I want to spend more time with these characters again. And I want to go from, really, really intense, violent, crazy moments to a freaking like musical number to glitter exploding everywhere. Like this is exactly my kind of movie. This is exactly what I signed up for. If you guys haven't seen this movie, please go check it out. If you have, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please let us know. Let us know if you plan on seeing it again, if you've told all your friends about it, if you're like spreading the word, because that's exactly what needs to happen. All of our links are down in the description if you want to find us on social media. If you want to check out what we rated this movie on Letterboxd and what our written reviews were, we have links down there as well. Thank you guys so much for all of your continued support, and we will see you next time.